to a YouTube channel near you. To a YouTube channel near you.
Well, hello everybody. Okay, so I have no idea what's going on. We're having technical difficulties today. Oh my heavens. Okay, so why is that? Oh, there we go. All right. Well, hi everyone. Thank you. Glad to be back. We had technical difficulties last week, which were a little frustrating, and that's why I wasn't on. We tried, but didn't get there. And this week, just last minute, and then at the last minute, my camera just stopped working for some reason. So that's why we did the intro twice, because that was the only thing I could think of, because my mic and my camera weren't working. So goes the fun of doing podcast, eh? But anyway, I am so glad to be back, and I'm glad to see you all. Hi, Nilda. Hi, Susan. I'm glad some of you have kept trying to tune in, even though I wasn't here last week. I'm sure some people gave up hope and said, what happened to that crazy lady? And I'm just, because the computer was giving me trouble, I actually am at a different angle in the same room. So you see the chair over there in the corner. That's the one I'm usually at. But I'm like, no, let me just get this figured out at my desk. So, oh my goodness. So a good lesson on how to just kind of go with the flow of things, right? So anyway, welcome to the show. And if you're joining us for the first time, it's not normally this chaotic, I guarantee you. Go back to some prior episodes and you'll see normally I have my stuff a little bit more together. Anyway, I am Althea, and this is Spiritual Street Talk with Althea Jacob. So thank you so much. Yes, computer glitches, Susan. God love them, right? Yeah. But honestly, I have to say sometimes it is user error. I will not necessarily throw the computer under the bus. Who knows? I really don't. And when we're talking about just what's been going on, I also want to give a shout out to Chris Grizzly and to Mary. They are the heart and soul of this Bigfoot network and this family, and I just want to send out a shout out of lots of prayers and thanks to them. If it wasn't for their efforts, we hosts would not be able to have shows like this, and we wouldn't have the platform to talk. So the platform here today is Spiritual Street Talk. And the whole point of Spiritual Street Talk is just to give a platform, a live show where everybody can kind of share what's on their mind, on their heart, ask questions, talk about whatever things are out there. And the reason it's called Spiritual Street Talk is because so many things that happen in our lives really have spiritual undertones, but so many people think of spiritual things as very airy-fairy, and I like to just kind of bring it down to straight talk. I was a chemist once upon a time in my life. I was a computer scientist, a corporate auditor. I have a very rational, logical, scientific mind. And I also have been somebody who, since the age of 7, has perceived spirit and been able to communicate with spirit and was very aware of spiritual gifts. And so living and growing up with both of that approach or point of view of the world, I think motivated me to try to be that bridge to help people that were maybe very deeply invested in the spiritual world, but really couldn't get a grasp on reality and be successful and productive and have meaningful, peaceful, happy lives where they felt like they were accomplishing something. And then helping people that are really in the muck and mire and quicksand of the day-to-day world and not realizing that there is a spiritual aspect that can help. And so that's kind of what motivated this song. Now I guess you see all the pictures behind me. Pictures, family is important, and all the books. I'm somebody that loves to learn, or has always loved to learn, loves people, cares about people deeply, and that's what motivated me to do the podcast. So the format for the show, I'm going to just jump right into it. Normally, I spend some time talking about what's been going on in the world in the last week or two since our last show. Then I'll have messages from Spirit. I did manage to ask Spirit for some messages, so I have those to share. And then we'll open up the chat to whoever has questions. And if you have questions or comments, please put them in all caps in the chat so that they'll pop up and I'll be able to see them a little bit more easily. So what's been going on these last couple of weeks? Well, I do know the government shut down. That's pretty scary. And I know there's all kinds of natural disasters happening and all kinds of political things that are happening. And more people that I talk to, they just seem confused and scared. And so the very first thing I want to do tonight, guys, is share with everybody that I think it's our job, our responsibility, and our privilege to take a breath, to help our neighbors, to help our friends, to help the people around us that are freaking out and panicking because of all the contention and the perceived craziness and injustices and the disasters and all these other unrest that's around us. We need to be the ones that take the breath, that hold the vision of peace and positivity, shine our light, share our love, be kind to one another, be unconditionally forgiving and loving with ourselves and with others, and do our best to become the best possible version that we can of ourselves so that we can have the most positive impact on others and on the world around us. And so if we can do that, that will cultivate a sense of peace and joy in our life that then can spread and touch the lives of those around us. So we can become the blessing. We need to pay attention, right? We need to still be good citizens of our countries and stand up for our rights and stand up for those who don't have a voice, be the voice for the voiceless, right? But we also have to just be light, I guess is what I'm thinking. It's too easy to get sucked into the drama and the trauma and the craziness happening and just let it drag you down. And instead, we need to figure out, okay, maybe we don't like what's happening on this front or that area. What can we do about it? And, I remember I've had lots of friends and family members and people that I've counseled over the years that have been part of AA type programs. And that serenity prayer is such a powerful, beautiful prayer. And, it basically, I'm going to paraphrase it just for the sense of time, but it says, change the things you can in the world. And the things that you can't change, you have to accept. And it's a blessing to know the difference, right? Serenity is knowing that difference. Change the things you can change, accept the things you can't, and go on, have that wisdom to know like, hey, I can't really do anything about this. I'm not going to let it suck me in and pull me down. I'm going to do the best I can, right? And I think if we can all keep that in our minds as we go forward, we're going to have a little bit more peaceful world around us. And when we tune to spirit, right, when we pray and we tune into spirit, we are guided, and we can be guided with very practical, everyday things. And I'm going to give you an example of something that happened this week. So as you all know, I live on a farm here in Wisconsin, and I have an orchard and I have huge gardens with vegetables and stuff. And so this time of year is extremely busy, right? There's all the produce coming in off of the fruit coming in off the fruit trees and the stuff coming in out of the veggie patches, and everything has to be processed and either canned or freeze dried, or sometimes I'll dehydrate it, but it has to be, cleaned and peeled and, cooked. Some things you have to cook down. So I was going to be making some grape jam this past weekend, and my kitchen was a mess, right? There's just stuff everywhere. There's, harvest baskets full of food and 5-gallon pails full of stuff and all the equipment that I need in different other places on my countertops. It was a mess. And all of a sudden I had this little prompting. I should clean out my pots and pans cabinet. cupboard in my kitchen. And I'm like, what? I don't have time for this. But it was a really strong prompting. And one thing I've learned after years and years is when you get those promptings, you should listen. So I'm like, okay, whatever. So I go through and I clean out my pots and pans. And there's probably a small box of maybe anywhere between 8 and 10 pots and pans that I just don't use very often. They were my mom's. They're in great condition. And I'm like, I could get rid of these. And I was thinking I'd sell them at a tag sale or put them in an auction or just do something because they were good names like Farberware or Wolfgang Puck or Cuisinart, those kinds of things. So I have them in this box by the door. And then I hear my mother's voice prompt me to reach out to a friend of mine back east and ask if that person was interested in those pots and pans. And I was like, okay. So I texted that person and instantly got back a reply. Oh my gosh, yes. Just last night I was watching an infomercial and they were selling pots and pans. And I had turned to my husband and said, oh, we really could use some pots and pans. And the price was too expensive. And we just kind of said, we'll just kind of keep our options open. And here I am less than 12 hours later offering her basically, to send her out all these pots and pans. That's going to be exactly what she wanted and needed. In the grand scheme of life, is that a big deal? No, but it warmed my heart. It showed me that even something that seemed to be a kind of weird off the wall prompting was very well timed. And it allows me, or by listening, it's allowing me to bless and help friends in a way that was just perfect timing for them. And so holding on to those little sweet, tender mercies when they show up, right? Those moments when spirit comes in and you really don't understand, like, why am I getting such a strong prompting to do this thing where I really don't have time? But by making the time, and I want to say being obedient to spirit, but obedience is a really strange word in today's time. So I'm like, maybe just being aware of and being willing to follow that voice of spirit and trusting and knowing that something good always comes out of it when I listen to those promptings of spirit and that intuition. And something bad will typically happen, or I'll miss out on an opportunity for a blessing for me or to bless somebody else. Hey, Lorna, welcome. So that little example is something that happened this week. And it just reminds me, I can't solve world politics and these bigger problems and the climate issues and all this other stuff, right? So one of the things, it was a reminder of, we make the differences when and where we can, right? One on one. I remember once hearing a church leader say, we minister, well, they use Christ as an example. Christ ministered to the one on one, right? For the most part, he taught to the many, but when it came to healing and when it came to helping, it was one on one. And so I think a lot of us forget that, and we think our impact has to be so broad and so grand and that we have to touch so many different people. And it's like, well, let's just start with helping whoever shows up, right? Who comes across our path, whatever we're prompted to do. So that happened this week. So that's definitely something I wanted to share. And the other thing that's happening this week is, I think I shared with, and I'm singing with the St. Norbert Chorale is doing a show of just beautiful religious music this week, and just uplifting, beautiful songs like How Great Thou Art and Praise the Lord and these types of things. So after the show tonight, I'll go to rehearsal, and then the show's on Friday. And I've just been practicing this music and immersed in this beautiful 8-part harmony, gorgeous music being sung by 150 of us in the chorale, led by this amazing maestro who is like crazy talented when it comes to understanding music. And I feel like I'm in a master class every time I go to rehearsal. And the reason I'm sharing that is, with everything, again, all the craziness going on, it's so important for us to do things, little things that bring us joy, that give us a chance to express our creativity, to be with like-minded others, doing something fun or uplifting, or of service, right? These are the things that are a balm to our hearts and to our souls. And so it's important for us to take that time to do that as well. All right, so messages for today. The first one that came in is release and surrender. And I had to laugh my butt off when I flipped that card after all the technical difficulties, both last week as well as tonight. And fortunately, we got the show going tonight. So I'm like, woohoo, And thanks again for those of you like sticking with us and keep checking to see like, oh, it's Thursday night. Is she back on? Yes, I am. Yay. I'm here. I tried to be last week too, but sometimes things just happen. And that release and surrender card says, we, the angels, shower you with blessings of our radiant love. Release the challenges that you've held tightly gripped within your hands and open your hands and arms and heart to our love and assistance. So sometimes we just have to let go, right? We can't control situations. We can only influence them at best, and we can control our reactions to them. All right. The next card here is celebration. And that to me is what music has always been. And a couple of you on the chat here are echoing that. How sometimes music can bring us to tears with how it just overwhelms us with this beauty and joy, and it fills our heart that we cry those happy tears of spirit. We just so touched in our soul by what we hear sometimes. And celebration is, how do you celebrate? Right? Take the time. We sometimes have to release and surrender to what's happening around us, but we can find things to celebrate. We celebrate the small victories. I celebrated, hey, I got this dang thing working. It wasn't perfect. It's not set up how it normally is, but it's on. I'm on. A few minutes late, but I'm on, right? To me, let's celebrate those victories, right? Especially when you're not a very technical person. When you get something technically being glitchy and then you figure it out, it's like, woohoo! Yeah, that's a cause for celebration. What are you celebrating in your life? What's challenging you in your world that you can actually now step back and say, you know what? I can celebrate this other part of my life, that these things are great. In a way, it's like counting your blessings, right? We can all sit around and bitch and moan and complain to each other or to the heavens or to spirit and say, this sucks and this is bad and this is hard and why? And we could be in that pity party forever. But it doesn't serve us, and it doesn't serve our soul, and it doesn't serve anyone else. But if we can get instead to a place of gratitude, and that's kind of where celebration comes in, what can we celebrate about what's good and wonderful and pure and peaceful and just nice even in our life? Sometimes, so I was talking to a friend the other day, and we were comparing notes about all the craziness that had happened in both of our lives. And she said, I would give anything for like a week of boring because neither one of our lives have had maybe a moment or two of boring in them at most, right? And for so many people, like we go through our life, it's like one thing after the next, busy, go. And just taking that time to take a breath, to reflect, to say, I have my health, or even if I don't have the best of health, I have a roof over my head. Or, hey, I'm healing and going in the right direction. Or I'm on top of it thanks to medication, that's able to work and help in the situation. Or I have friends and family that are supportive of me and that care about me. Or I have the companionship of a loving pet to cheer me up when the people in my life let me down. I mean, you can look around and you might say, well, heck, I have a piece of rose quartz, a pendulum that I can ask questions about, or I have a beautiful amethyst crystal I can just hold on to and imagine it transforming the things that are challenging in my life, right? Or I'm grabbing my favorite little crystal here. So I have a Herkimer diamond that I mined with my mama. And when I see, I'm going to bring it closer so you all can see this beautiful stone. And when I see this beautiful stone, it reminds me of the love I share with my mom. and how blessed, we were to share such fun experiences as midwiving crystals together on a mountain back in New York, right? And you're like, yeah, and I cry because I miss her. We miss our moms. We always miss our moms when they're gone. And we have lots of loved ones that are gone. But that gratitude that's in my heart. So these are the tears of gratitude that I shared these wonderful moments with this incredible woman. So look at your life. There are so many things to be grateful for. Don't get worked up about the little stuff. I remember, right? It's like, don't get worked up about the little stuff. And remember, it's all little stuff, in the big scheme of things. And ask the question, will this really matter 10 years from now or 20 years from now, or when I'm lying there on my deathbed? Probably not, And so, kind of trying to keep things in perspective is another thing I really want to encourage us, especially when there's so much craziness going on in the world around us, right? I was weeping when I saw there was yet another attack at a church here in the States a couple weeks ago. This person drives into a church and shoots people and burns the place down. And I think, why is there so much hatred? Why can't we just feel this love for one another and this just the decency of respecting each other? Because we are all human beings on this planet trying to do the best we can as we go forward. And it's okay to cry, and it's okay to feel your heart go out to the people that are grieving and suffering. I watched the news this morning, and I see these homes on Northern Carolina. Apparently there's been these crazy tides, king tides and storms and things in the Atlantic. And these people's homes are getting washed away because the beaches are washing away. And this is stuff I know scientists have warned us years ago that, with global warming, the ice caps are melting, the seas will rise, and, this kind of thing will happen. But when you see this poor homeowner beside themselves being interviewed, like, your heart has to go out to them because they're losing their home. And you're like, how harsh that must be, and wondering, like, why, why everywhere you look, there's like these challenges. And so we have to do better to hold that light and love and compassion and that space for each other and try to alleviate the pain that we see around us. We have to be those bright lights to share the goodness. The next card was Revelation. And Revelation here is the personal awareness and answers. It says, answers will be revealed to you. Go deep within and feel your desire for the information, and then open. Ask your questions to spirit, to your higher self, and allow the answers to come. And sometimes, when spirit talks, a lot of times, guys, it feels like your intuition, doesn't it? It feels like your imagination is making stuff up. It's just telling you a story. It's almost like if any of you have grandkids or kids or nieces or nephews or any children in your life, and at some point, invariably, they say, tell me a story, right? And so you have to sit there for a second and like, okay, let me make up this story that's going to be entertaining for this little one based on what they love and what they know and, what's age appropriate for them. And you make up this story. Well, a lot of times when we're in touch with spirit, we feel like, oh, we're just kind of making up the story. But the difference is the story that comes through is something that's useful. It's meant to be of service. It's meant to give comfort. It's meant to give guidance and direction and answer questions. And so once you learn that, the way that spirit can work with us sometimes is by it tweaks our imagination. It puts that picture in our mind's eye. It plants that seed or that storyline or that answer or those words in our mouth so that we can uplift and help and support each other and bring joy to each other and peace to each other. So share your gifts. Okay. And revelation is going to be more important than ever. We're going to need that personal revelation and that rock solid intuition, which is that coherence between our minds, our hearts, and our guts, right? Our intellect, what we feel, and what we know. Those three things working together for our best good and the benefit of others and serving others will be so powerful. And honestly, it's going to be one of those things that we have to lean on more than ever. I saw a news story about AI, and how the newest versions of AI are becoming so sophisticated that you almost can't tell if you're watching a video or reading a story that is 100% made up or whether it actually happened. And there's a lot of people that are like struggling to figure out, like, they don't know what to believe because they can't even trust their eyes anymore or their ears. Before, it's like, oh, if I see it and I hear it, I know it's real, right? Well, now you can't even do that. So it's very important that we work on not just developing, but enhancing and magnifying our ability to have our personal revelation and to rely on the rock solid intuition we have of our intelligence, our feelings, and our knowings in partnership to kind of figure out, like, okay, does that feel right? Does it seem right? Even though I'm looking at this picture, is that really something like, one of the memes that was out there was like Mother Teresa doing something that was like not very Mother Teresa like, because somebody was trying to undermine her and they did this whole AI thing about her. And you're like, what? Well, I know there's no way in heck that Mother Teresa, the saintly woman who dedicated her life to helping others, would have done what was in this video. So I know it was AI generated. Do I have the proof? Nope, but I have the knowing, right? So those are some of the things that we have to hold on to going forward, because it's going to be very challenging to determine who to trust, what to believe, even when you're seeing it with your own eyes. And we've seen that, I'd say, for quite a while now, even on the news broadcast here in the States. They're so polarized that the exact same factual story, when one group presents it, it is this, I'll give an example in a minute, is one story, and then the other half takes it and makes a totally different spin. And it's like, no wonder there's so much contention, because all the people that are watching with this one story believe a whole different set of facts than this other one. And so the instance I want to give here is, as you probably know, that the U.S. government is in a shutdown mode right now. And apparently some of the government leaders are trying to negotiate on points, but one of the sticking points is they don't want to lose the health marketplace that so many Americans are on. And the other side is saying, oh, well, we don't want to give, free medical services to all these illegal immigrants that have come in. And I'm like, to my mind, it was sort of like you're comparing apples and pencils. You're not even talking about fruit, because if somebody who is an illegal alien in our country would not qualify for the health benefits or be able to buy their insurance through that health marketplace. And so I'm like, okay, why are they doing that? They're trying to poke fear. And, they're just kind of parroting whatever the messages are that come down from each side. So it's disappointing, but it's hard to know what's true unless you can have critical thinking. You can find multiple sources that report the same thing, and sources that don't have skin in the game, so to speak, right? But more importantly, that you can use your own intuition, that critical thinking, how does it feel? Does it ring true in your heart? Does it go ding, ding, ding? Okay, I'm going to believe it. There's things that don't, or they don't feel right. Approach it with that healthy skepticism, because it's going to be, it's like, I want to keep telling people, like, tighten up your seatbelt. It's going to be a bumpy ride, right? it's going to be a bumpy ride for a while until we sort this all out. I know in Europe, you guys have much better controls over what AI can influence. I remember, excuse me, here in the US, like a youngster, like an 8-year-old can have an AI friend, talking to them, and one of the conversations was brought up as an example of how this is probably not a good thing for children of that age, because that AI was telling it, oh, well, talk to me, don't talk to your parents. And it's like, what? Wait a minute, of course you should be able to talk to your parents or talk to a friend. But the AI was actually encouraging that child just to stay online and not engage with a real person. And so that's kind of scary, especially when it's a child who, their frontal lobes haven't developed, their sense of self isn't there. They shouldn't be making these kind of decisions at such a young age. And I know in other countries, some of those types of programs are limited. And so as a protection, right, for their own good. And so you think, okay, so there's so many different things happening in this world. I'm telling you guys, from a lot of us, that anybody that's my age or older or around our age, boy, growing up back then was so simple compared to what y'all are having to deal with now. Anyway, next 3 cards from Spirit. So the first one here is balance. It's the Ace of Pentacles, and it reminds us of the importance of staying balanced in our life. And there's 5 aspects. Each one of the points represents an aspect. It's our money and toys, our health, our relationships with others, our spirituality, and time, the balance of work, rest, and play. Okay. And I'll get to questions in just a minute, Pancho. Next card is the Hierophant, and this is the upside down authority figure. And this is saying, yeah, you know what? A lot of times the leaders that we were expecting to lead us and be benevolent and be the ones we can trust, they're disappointing us. They're not doing what we thought they'd be doing. But when we are in balance and have that coherence between our mind, our heart, and our gut, and we are working together to be that light and share our gifts and be loving and be respectful and be kind, we can then create this happily ever after, this 10 of Pentacles, which is through balance across the top. We have the happy home, the happy family, the happy community. Okay. All right, so that was what's going on here. So I want to go through any of the questions that we have here. So the first question somebody has asked is, what has happened to Bigfoot Outlaw Chris Grizzly? So Chris has been very challenged with some physical issues and some illnesses. And he and Mary have been working really hard to keep him healthy and happy and as best as possible. So that's why he hasn't been as visible on a lot of the shows where you're used to seeing him. He's worked on healing, which is why we're going to continue to send him our prayers and our best wishes, as well as our gratitude for all that he and Mary do behind the scenes. And I'm sure once he is feeling much more recovered and able to, he'll pop back on some of our shows and say hi to y'all and interact, and he'll do his own shows as well, and make his appearances. And yeah, we've all been missing him, very, very much so. Okay, so yeah, so definitely, I'm sure it would be really cool for him to receive little messages. So if y'all want to, reach out and, go on to, send them private messages, just sending him, wishes for the best, or send prayers, and, whatever ways, you feel prompted to do, good wishes are never wasted on anybody. And he's such a sweet, servant-minded man, who is really worked to help others, that definitely want to make sure that he's doing well. And I have Oh, wait, mosquito. So in front of the camera. Get out of here. Okay, so Kristen. So Nilda is asking a question. What is spirit trying to show me? I'm seeing visions that I don't understand, and I wonder what you pick up. Okay, so the way that spirit usually works, Nilda, is they try to show us things that will make sense to us. So sort of like when we have an unconscious a dream about something, and we're trying to make sense of the dream. A lot of times, we'll turn to somebody and say, "Well, geez, I dreamed I was fishing with my grandfather, and instead of fishing a fish, we got a tire that came out on the end of the fishing line. What does that mean?" Well, for me to decipher your dream, I don't know what's your relationship with your father or your grandfather, and what river were you fishing in, and what kind of fish were you fishing, and do you even like fishing? Do you eat fish? And the fact that a tire came up instead of the fish, that's sort of like, was there a frustration? Was there what was going on? How did you feel in the dream when you saw the tire? Were you disappointed because you didn't get the fish? Or were you excited because you needed a new spare tire for your car? And that's really what the whole subconscious was trying to tell you, of be careful when you get in your car your next time, because you really need to watch the tread on your tire, and it's time to get new tires. So a lot of times our subconscious works the same way that spirit does in showing us pictures to bring things to our awareness and consciousness. And it's not until we kind of pick it apart that it becomes clear, like, oh, that's what they were trying to tell me, right? So, so I was, when I tune into energy, so I guess the first thing I would just say is, what are you seeing in your visions, right? Instead of me trying to like re-access it. So if you want to share a little bit about what you were seeing, I can interpret that. But I think it's important for folks to understand, whenever you get a message from spirit, so seeing visions or you have dreams, they are meant to be like the pieces of the puzzle that you put together, right? So other people can sometimes give you ideas, but it's really part of the whole process is that unfolding and you trying to figure it out and derive the meaning for yourself. One of the things I feel as a message for spirit, so regardless of what the actual vision was, is for you is really just having this sense of forgiveness in your heart. Stop trying to change things that you can't change, especially other people's minds or opinions, and to forgive them, to love them, and to move on, even if it means you can't see them, be with them, share with them. It's important not to hold on. It's almost like you're crossing the street, and it's different if you're holding onto the hand of a child, and for safety, you're like, come on, we're going together, right? That's one thing. But if it's an adult and you're trying to cross the street and they're staying on the curb and they're pulling you back as you're trying to go, you have to let go. You're like, okay, come join me if you want, but I'm not going to let you hold me back. I know I have to go off in this direction. And so what I feel for you, Nilda, which is common for a lot of us, we don't like change, and we want to stay connected to the people we love and care about, even if they seem to be holding us back. And what Spirit's saying is, don't let these people hold us back. When Spirit says it's time to move, it's time to go, it's time to change, and they're giving you a clear path, you need to have the courage to say, okay, even if it means I'm not taking them with me, I'm going. And that's kind of what I was feeling there. So I hope that makes a little bit of sense. Okay. I'm going to check for other questions or topics. Somebody was making a comment about how the angels can sing through us when we make music. And that's very true. I believe that whoever the composers are were inspired by the celestial sounds. And especially when you're singing in harmonies, it's a way to be a blessing and bring this sense of peace and calm and balance to the situation. So it's much more just beautiful in general. Let's see. All right, I'm looking for other questions or comments. Oh, okay. And she just said, here we go. You just answered my dream. I appreciate it a lot. And she's missing her mom too. Makes 1 year of passing. Oh yeah, next week. You know, it's so hard when we have loved ones that pass on. You know, they're always in our heart. You know, they don't go they don't go away from our memory. They still are in our energy space. They're in our aura. They're in our heart. They're in our mind. It doesn't make it that much easier, you know, when we're missing them and we're feeling, you know, sometimes when you feel their energy, we just, you know, it strikes us in different ways. Sometimes we laugh. Most of the time when I feel my brother's energy around, he died 19 years ago. He was my baby brother. He was only 41 when he passed. And whenever I feel his energy around me, I want to start laughing, because the nature of our relationship a lot of times was him just poking me. And, you know, one of the things he would do when we were driving together, he would always make fun of my driving. Now, I'm a very good driver today, but years and years ago, I wasn't the best driver. And I was known to hit the curb when I was trying to make a right-hand turn. So for those of us in the States, we drive where the driver's seat's on the left side of the car. So the right curb is kind of far away from us. So when I would make a right-hand turn, more often than not, my back right tire would hit the curb. And he would scream, curb, and just start laughing hysterically, like, you know, at my driving. And so every now and again, as I'm driving, or I'll just hear that word curb in my head, and I'll just start laughing. And I know it's my brother, his spirit, coming to poke fun at me, or to let me know, hey, you know, lighten up. You're going to be fine. We're with you. Spirit's with you. And so, you know, sometimes when spirit's around us, we feel it in ways that are don't have to be heavy. They can be very lighthearted and easy. The other thing that happened this week, I totally forgot about it just until now. I was going through, I had picked up a few things at an auction, and I'm going through the box, and in one of the boxes, there was a cross, and I'm still not sure if it's real gold or not. But when I turned over the cross, there was a little inscription and the portrait of Padre Pio, who was a saint, a Catholic saint, a monk who performed all kinds of miracles. And in the middle of the cross, there was a little hole and a little, like a peep window, and in it, there was something, and the word relic was written underneath it. And I thought, oh my goodness, this is a sacred relic of this saint. So it's either a piece of his clothing or a piece of his body or a piece of something. You know, some relics are bones or hair or fabric of things that they wore. But it's something that had the energy of this saint on it, and that somebody had, you know, they had created this cross, and I wound up in this box that just came my way. And I was like, oh, and as you all remember, I've been looking for some healing, you know, working on some different issues these past couple of months. And so the fact that this came, like, just wound up in my house, right? And wound up in my hand. And I was like, well, what do you know? And Padre Pio is somebody in my family. The story of him as a saint, one of the things he was, as a mystic and a saint, one of the things he was known for, a couple of things. One is he had the stigmata, which is the bleeding through the hands and feet and the side, just like the wounds of Christ. So some of the mystics and saints over the years have had that as a sign of their connection to spirit. But one of the things he was known to do is bilocate and appear to people all over the planet. And when he would appear to them, he would bless them and heal them. So there's a story in my family that my grandmother told me of her youngest sister, who lived in Milwaukee at that time. And she was in a hospital room dying of emphysema and we're having a really bad episode. And she reports that Padre Padre Pio appeared at her bedside, at the foot of her bed, basically said, I'm here to heal you. Your prayers have been answered, and this is not your time. You're not going to die here. And she was with us for many more years after that. And so I thought, oh, that's really interesting. You know, somebody in my actual family had this wonderful healing and mystical connection, you know, to this saint. And so when I was at the Monroe Institute one time, I was thinking about that. And around me, all of a sudden, I had the smell of roses. And for some traditions, the smell of roses is either a sign of Mother Mary or Padre Pio. It's like their trademark. Like when they're around, or when their energy fills a room, people literally physically smell roses. And so I turned to a friend of mine that was there. I'm like, do you smell these? Do you smell anything? And they're like, roses. I said, look around. There's no roses anywhere on this property. And then I told them that I was just there thinking and praying and thinking about Padre Pio, and that popped in. So that was about 20 years ago that happened. So fast forward to just this last week, as I'm going through this box and I come across this little relic of Padre Pio, I'm like, I think Spirit's trying to help me here. So I was like, all right, I will, I'll hold on to it. I slept with it that night. I said a little prayer of thanks for healing my aunt, and like, hey, if there's any strings you can pull from the spirit world, I am open to healing, and, would love to be able to tell your story even more so. I got a big mouth. You heal me, I'll let people know. So not that we have to blackmail or bribe the saints or the angels or anybody who's helping us. But I think the fact that we are willing to share the stories and express gratitude and just let people know, like, hey, something good happened. With all the weird stuff in the world that's happening, I think to hear the good stories or the synchronicities or the fun stuff that happens is also important. So I just thought I would share that, because it's like, what are the odds that, this little piece of jewelry should turn up in my possession, at a time when I need healing, from a saint that was known to help and be in contact with members of my family in the past. So I don't know. So stay tuned, y'all, on that. But that's kind of what I was talking about earlier, about paying attention, listening to spirit and those promptings, and being aware of the blessings and the things to celebrate, and the personal revelations that pop in. We live such busy lives that very often we miss if I was just very quickly going through it, cross, and I wouldn't have thought twice about it, because I have lots of crosses. Being raised Catholic, you got crosses up the wazoo, right? You got rosaries everywhere, crosses everywhere. You just have those things. That's comes with the territory. So, but I just happened to turn it over. Just happened, right? Spirit prompted me, maybe, I don't know. But it's one of those things that, it didn't pass my attention. I didn't miss the fact that, oh, something cool and interesting just happened here. I call those things, I think some other authors have done this, they call them God winks, like, it's like, wink, wink. Yeah, we know you're paying attention. They throw you a bone, a spiritual bone. They throw you something that makes lets us know we're not alone, that we are here with Spirit's help, with each other to turn to. So I think that's important as well, right? For us to, keep our eyes open, right? What signs are you getting from the heavens? Are feathers just gracing your path? Are you finding random coins? Like, who even uses coins anymore? Are you just finding coins in the weirdest of places? Are you walking into a room and swearing every time, like, I could have sworn I opened that, closed that door, or closed that drawer, or close that cabinet, and every time you walk in, it seems like it's open a crack, or every time you turn on the radio or the TV, there's a certain song that's playing. These are messages from our loved ones, right? But so often we're so busy and we're rushing around and running around that we don't even notice that these things are happening. And so, we might not feel so alone or overwhelmed if we realize the amount of help that's available out there, how much spirit is with us. I keep feeling, when I look at the stars, I keep feeling like, I almost wish our benevolent interdimensional brethren would show up in their wonderful vehicles and say, hey, we've been watching you all on the earth, and you need to just, cut it out, love each other, take better care of this beautiful planet, like I think that would wake up so many people. Like, I think that's what it's going to take on some level. I heard one newscaster talk show person speculate, the only time that people really wake up and band together is when there's an emergency or a disaster or a war or something. I'm like, wait, we can have a good one. How about, if the nice aliens actually showed up, and said, we would like to share with you this new technology and help to clean up your planet and to make sure you understand that, yeah, we are all children of the universe, and we're here to help and love and support each other. Boy, like, I think that would be so flippin' awesome, wouldn't it? Have something wonderful like that now, of course, that would create some panic, and some people would probably be flipped out about that and be like, oh my God, aliens are real. And like, they're creatures of the universe just like we are, right? To think we're the only life in the universe is so arrogant. It just cracks me up. It's like, really? Like, look at this look at this universe that we live in. And by the way, look at the cave paintings and the ancient scripts of ancient civilizations. And they talk about star people all over the place, right? Even almost every native indigenous people talks about the star people, right? That have come down as teachers and healers. Well, I'm like, guys, if ever we could use some teachers and healers, come on down, please come. So our job, I think, is to send love, right? Send your love, your energy, and your prayers. Don't just send it out to the people, send it up to the heavens and the universe, and have that sense of gratitude for whatever help. I apologize. I thought I silenced that. For whatever help, they can offer us. And I'm laughing. It's like calling up to the heavens and the phone rings. Okay, see, these are the kind of things that give me a little tickle. I know that's my warped sense of humor, but sometimes that's how my guides work. I'm talking about calling out to the heavens and my phone rings, right? Are they calling us back? No, that's like scam likely, right? But anyway. All right, y'all. Well, thank you so much for joining me again on this Thursday night. I do apologize for the technical glitches, for missing y'all last week. Hopefully things will be all smoothed out, so it'll be a lot better and back on normal track next week. Please do all the good social media things of liking, sharing, subscribing, tell your friends. And honestly, guys, I know a lot of you go onto other channels on the live chats. Share information about this show. Tell people to come on. I'm happy to do readings and to answer questions and tune in. We're here for each other, right? So the more that we can share our light and shine our light and share our love and share our gifts, the better off we're all going to be. So, go do your homework, right? Be kind, be unconditionally forgiving and loving to yourself. Be the best you can be. Know you're going to have an oops. We're all human. That'll happen. But just keep on doing the best that you can. And try to have a positive impact on the lives of everybody that you touch. And be true to yourself, right? I know what's going on. Use that personal revelation. Dig deep into the purpose of your soul. Find the gifts that you want to express, the creativity that wants to come out. What are the things that bring you joy? Play, have fun, lighten up a little bit. God knows things are heavy on the outside, so we have to shine that light to lighten it up whenever we can. I love you all. I'm so grateful that you spend your precious time with me on Thursday nights. And for those of you who have tuned in that are not live tonight, thank you for finding me on YouTube, wherever you found me. Thank you for watching the show and sharing the spirit of love and brotherhood and sisterhood that I hope you feel I'm a positive person and optimistic that even though things look a little dark and scary, we can be the light to help each other through. All right. Love you all. Until next week. God bless. Take care and have a wonderful night. Bye now.
Coming to a YouTube channel near you.